The month of June in the MLW brought much to take away from, and we here at MLW Network have failed to cover it. I'm sorry. But that's why I'm here today. I'm Joshua Banner, and some of you may know me as the guy who interviewed Chris Cheetam in my show called 10 Questions right here on this very channel. But today I'm joined by no one. I'm here to discuss the 12 biggest takeaways from an exciting month in the MLW. And that's going to be 3 from each series. This is Banner's Dozen. The first series I will be talking about, if you can remember this far, was 4 weeks ago between the Cobras and the Eagles. The Cobras heading in was riding high off of their series win against the Great Lakes-Gators. Meanwhile, the Eagles, they started off with a very disappointing 0-3 start. However, the Eagles were able to win this series 2-1 off of Schultz's impressive pitching performance in both Game 1 and 2. Drew Davis, however, was able to put up a very impressive pitching performance of his own in Game 3 to at least win 1 for the Cobras, but overall, a very disappointing day for the Coastal Cobras. This brings me to my first takeaway from the game, or from the series, and that's the fact that the Cobras' biggest weakness is mental preparation. Drew Davis needs to take charge in making sure his team never gets too comfortable. If you can remember, the Cobras, they took it easy. The Eagles, of course, started 0-3. This looked to be an easy win for the Cobras. Even Andy Durand, I believe it was Durand, who said I'm gonna muff this up, but basically he said that he wasn't going to dress up for a team like the Eagles because they don't deserve him dressing up. Basically, they did not think the Eagles were capable of defeating them, and as you know, they were wrong. I noted earlier that the one thing that could hurt the Cobras was getting on their own head. Getting in their own head, actually. They thought they had an easy series, and they were caught off guard. Had they treated this series like they did with the Gators, they would have won this series without a doubt in my mind. And this has been a recurring problem for the Cobras for a while now. They have all this talent, but they don't know how to use it. This is why they haven't won a championship. This is why they blew a 2-0 lead in the World Series. This is why they were the worst team in the league last year after starting off with a series sweep and having several players in the All-Star game. It all stems down from leadership. Baranowski is looking decent. I'm not going to lie, especially with pitching, but he's being outperformed by a 16-year-old. He was supposed to be the Cobras' savior, but he's only been an okay pitcher and has been very disappointing in regards to his batting. I would give him a bit of a pass with him being a rookie, but with people like Dallas Allen, who's much younger than him, going off, there is really no excuse for him not being as good as he was expected to be. And this all relies on Drew Davis's leadership. I get that it's fun to be the cocky villains of the league, but being cocky does not win you championships. And the Cobras, they need a culture change, or they will doomed in mediocrity forever. My next takeaway is going to be shorter, but I do want to put credit where credit is due. And that's that Dallas Allen has been looking great for a rookie. And in my opinion, he's the front runner for Rookie of the Year. Some of his pitches do get away from him, but that is expected. He is still developing. He is only 16. But his pitching is very impressive, especially this last series. And on the other end, he has been able to rack up several home runs and also support a nice 4.29 average in his first 6 games. He is looking very good for a player that's still developing. And I like this pick from the beginning, but I did not expect him to be this good right away. And if I'm an Eagles fan, I'd be very excited for this team's future with him and Schultz. Maybe not this year, but moving forward, this team looks like they could be good down the road. This next takeaway, though, is not going to be as nice to the Eagles. Daniel Schultz's hitting woes are costing the Eagles. Daniel Schultz has yet to rack up a hit in his first 2 series, and as a leader of this team, he's becoming a liability in a position which was already a weakness of this team in prior years. He has the most at-bats on his team with 20, but has only racked up 0 hits and has a 130 on-base percentage and OPS. Daniel Schultz was never the best hitter, and nobody's expecting him to turn into Nick Saylor, but he's commonly someone you can at least rely on, at least somewhat hold his own against a team that does not consider hitting a strong suit. He cannot hold his own against a Cobras team that wasn't even all there to begin with. So how do you expect him to hold his own later in the season when he faces off against the Gators with Cheetam or against the Wildcats with Kyle Schultz? The Eagles are already a team with zero expectations, but if, and only if, Daniel Schultz can start playing better offense, I still think they have a shot. But if Daniel cannot get his hitting together, then they have absolutely zero chance of making the playoffs. The next series was the Downtown Diamondbacks taking on the Great Lakes Gators. Downtown Diamondbacks in their first series looked like the best team in the MLW, and they continued their streak, although they did lose Game 2 against the Gators off of great pitching from Cheetam and great hitting from Cheetam and Zerlag. Jorgensen did not look as good, and Game 3 was an all-timer, which we'll get into. The first takeaway from the series is it is now official. It is now indisputable who the better pitcher is. Cheetam is the best pitcher on this Gators team. Before the series, if you would have told me that Jorgensen was the better pitcher, I would have thought you were wrong, but I could at least see your point. But this series really made it official. There is no doubt who the better pitcher is. And this is not to say that Jorgensen is a bad pitcher at all. He could just be experiencing a cold streak that is held over from the World Series. I'm still on record for calling him the best backup pitcher in the league, mostly for what he can do at his full potential. But Cheetam has proven himself time and time again that he is the best pitcher on the Gator squad, including this series. He was able to go toe-to-toe against Jimmy Nort for a bajillion innings, and his pitches looked amazing. Jorgensen's pitches, not as good. I mean, it's just as simple as that. A lot of people have hated Jorgensen. I've seen a lot of people saying the Gators should trade him, which I don't agree with. But I'm not going to be blind and be crazy and say that Jorgensen is the better pitcher, because it's not, and it's indisputable. There is not a person on this planet who knows a lot about wiffle ball, who has watched the past few series, that can tell me that Cheetam isn't better. Number 2, I'm sorry for all the people that watched the first game and bought stock in Michael Schema, because I'm sorry, but it's time to sit him. He brought much attention in his first game with 2 home runs, but did not play as well for the next 2 games. Still, his early performance led some to list him as a Rookie of the Year frontrunner. But sorry, I don't see it. And for as talented of a side that this Diamondbacks team is, quite frankly, I think they're better off not playing him. He only supports a 172 average, which is much lower than the other hitters on this team. He went 0 for 6 Game 1 and has really slowed this team down from an otherwise very explosive offense. And now with Ben Wilson back, the Diamondbacks can become unstoppable by replacing their one offensive weakness in Schema. And with starting a lineup of Norp, Heath, and Wilson, name me a team that's going to beat them. Name me a team that's going to take 2 out of 3. I don't think there is a team that can beat them. So with that starting 3, I think they should just stay with a 3. I don't think they should be trying for players, because as long as they have Norp, Heath, and Wilson, there is not a flaw. There is not a weakness. I don't think we can beat them. So I know they love Schema. I know he's great friends with Norp and the rest of the team. But if they really want to get serious about making it so that they have the best chance of winning, I think they should just go with the 3-man lineup and cruise to the number 1 seed. Number 3, we saw it a bit in Game 3, and I think it's the right call. It's time to start intentionally walking Jimmy Norp. Now, Norp has been dominant in all aspects of the field this season. He has a legitimate case so far to be Silver Slugger, Manager of the Year, Gold Glove, Most Dedicated, Cy Young, and MVP. It has reached the point where when Jimmy Norp goes up to bat, you expect him not only to get a hit, but to reach second or third, if not hit a home run. By the end of Game 3, the Gators made the call to start intentionally walking Jimmy Norp, which became the right call to make, and honestly, it should be the right call going forward. Now, Ben Wilson and Jonah Heath aren't bad hitters either, not by any stretch, but their capability for explosive plays are nowhere near the same as Jimmy Norp's. So, it's time to give Norp the Barry Bonds treatment. Next series was a battle between the 2-1 teams, the Pacific Predators and the Midwest-Mallards. It was a great pitching battle for two of the games between Ryan Crash and Trevor Bonham, with both players taking a win, and Ryan Crash with a no-hitter that went into 6 innings. An amazing pitching performance. Game 2 was not as good of a pitching performance. McGlade got the W. Coughlin had a horrible pitching performance in just 2 innings, allowing 12 runs, the mercy rule for both innings. And that leads me to my first point. Coughlin should not be pitching. All right, the Mallards are a squad with many options at pitcher. They found their ace in Trevor Bonham, but their second option comes down between Caden Irwin, Tommy Coughlin, or maybe even Brendan Davenport. But one thing was proven after Game 2, Tommy Coughlin should not be pitching right now. Now, I'm willing to give Tommy the benefit of the doubt, as he does have a self-disclosed injury, but that only makes his decision to start him at pitcher more questionable. Now, Irwin did not look the best in his first start against the Wildcats, but at least he got out of an inning. Coughlin's pitches looked substantial, and he reached the mercy rule for both innings. In the future, I would love to see Irwin get more starts as he settles in, or maybe even give Davenport a chance. But as of right now, Coughlin should not be starting. Now, the Mallards are, of all the teams, I say the team with the biggest question marks heading into the season and in the first 2 games of the season, or the first 2 series, excuse me. The Mallards got off to a good start against the Wildcats, but holes started becoming apparent in this series. Fielding and batting issues are plaguing the Mallards. And just look at some of these stats. I mean, Trevor Bonham went 0 for 11. Caden Irwin went 1 for 14. Granted, 2 of the games were against Crash, but neither could even get a hit against McGlade. On top of that, the story of the Mallards season seems to be their trouble with their fielding. They lost the game due to Irwin not being able to field the ball. Pair this with Coughlin in his first series, and also Coughlin this series not knowing how many outs he had and letting Ward tag. It's becoming a problem, and it's costing them games. My last point may be obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway. Ryan Crash is my Cy Young frontrunner. I mean, what else is new? I mean, Crash came in today with a 0.0 ERA, and he only lost the first game because his only 2 hits given up both went for home runs. But he quickly redeemed himself by pitching a no-hitter through 6 innings. If you ask me, there's no doubt in my mind that he is still the best pitcher in the MLW. The last series I will be talking about today is the most recent one between the 1 and 2 teams, the Metro Magic and the Western Wildcats. Now, Game 1 was a great pitching duel between Jason Chadwick and Kyle Schultz, where the Magic ended up winning. Now, if you want a good laugh, you can always watch Game 2 and watch the Magic pitching unit just completely be horrible. I mean, that's the nicest form of what I could say. And yeah, the Wildcats easily won, and that game was so bad that it kind of went into the Magic, their mindset headed into Game 3, as they couldn't even rack up a hit. Kyle Schultz pitched a no-hitter as they went on to easily win the game and win the series 2-1. And yeah, the Magic aren't looking that good right now. The first takeaway from the series, let's just bring it to your attention that backup pitchers are more valuable than ever. Now, see, I told you Jorgensen was being undervalued. What we saw in Game 2 might have been the worst case of what we've seen yet, but it has become a common problem for teams that aren't prepared. Teams without a second pitcher have been embarrassed recently. Teams like the Predators, the Mallards, and most notably the Magic have seen horrendous pitching that would get you benched in a under 12 rec baseball game. Now, the Magic especially, their performance completely broke their spirits. And we're seeing the true impacts of what not having a backup pitcher can really do to a team in its worst case scenario. And they went from winning against Kyle Schultz in Game 1 to only notching 2 runs against Nick Saylor and being no hit in Game 3. For a team like the Magic, these are especially valuable games to begin with. But when you don't have someone who can pitch a full game, all I can say is they better start scouting right now. My second takeaway, now look, I love Jason Chadwick, but his inconsistency is very concerning. If there's one person in this league that I have the most trouble understanding, it's Jason Chadwick. Because he was easily the best player on the field in Game 1. He allowed only 2 hits in a shutout win against Kyle Schultz. And he also had 2 hits, including 1 home run. And I was about to give a speech about how we are still underrating him. And then I saw his performance in Game 3, and I had to scrap all my notes. And I know part of it was the broken spirits from that horrendous Game 2. But let's not forget that Chadwick also gave up 10 runs against the Predators, also in Game 3. And you could say that's because of Warda closing in on 100 home runs, but if you want to be one of the best players in the league, that cannot be an excuse. And I know Chadwick can be a top 10 MLW player, but the best players cannot only appear for one game. I'm not sure if fatigue is a factor, but if I'm Jack Agner, I might even want to consider experimenting with starting Chadwick in games 1 and 2 if fatigue is going to be a factor. And my last takeaway, number 12, I think the Cats are the best looking team in the AL. Now, I don't think the Cats are the most talented or the most complete team in the AL. And I'm still reserving that spot for the Cobras, but I trust the Wildcats to keep winning a lot more than I do with the Cobras. And a lot of it comes back to leadership. The 1-2 punch of Schultz and Saylor is the deadliest duo in the MLW right now. Now, Ryan Kelly might not be a good hitter, but if I'm being honest, I'm not giving him enough credit for his ability to get on pace, which was in full effect today. I mean, you saw the stats, 15 straight walks, believed to be an MLW record. This is a man who last season had an OBP of 508, despite only having an 88 average. All he does is get on base, which is all they really need from him. Because once Saylor and Schultz inevitably get hits and home runs, the points will start racking up. With Schultz pitching and their explosive offense, I have no doubt that the Cats will not only make the playoffs, but be a strong contender to be repeat AL champions. What were your thoughts of the MLW this past month? I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing. And also joining our MLW Discord, where we are in full discussion of many topics, including dumb trade ideas for Brendan Jorgensen. So if you're interested in that, please consider doing all of what I told you to, or not. I'm not the boss of you. But yeah, I hope you all are having a great day, and I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.